Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm Kendra, the new hire for mission reviews. I'm supposed to see a Captain P.F. Dennis. Where can I find him?
Of all the souls that I have encountered in my travels, his was the most stubborn. I don't know how I'm supposed to go ahead and make the news as if nothing happened.
Well, how do you think I feel? He's the guy who hired me, and now I don't know if I still have the job.
I heard that. Is some young gal looking for gainful employment? The work might not be to your liking, little lady, but I provide fantastic medical benefits.
Shut up, Chalaski. This young lady has a job right here. If Cap wanted her hired, then at least we can do is honor his memory and to make sure that she's part of the Primetime family.
Is that guy part of the show?
Not officially. He was an old friend of Cap's, but it's actually the Kirkvat likes him more. The two of them have some kind of business arrangement. I'm really not clear of the details, and I don't ask. Anyways, Kendra, welcome to the show. It's too bad you didn't get to know the captain. It's just not going to be the same.
He sounds like he was a very nice guy.
I wouldn't go that far. But we're used to a certain level of professional abuse, and his diva-like attitude and behaviors are the stuff of legends. God, I'm gonna miss him.
Okay, well, I'd better get going and prepare for my spot. I have a Foundry mission review, and I'd better go over the material.
I understand. I have this news segment to do, but I just can't seem to get into the right frame of mind.
Wait, is there anything I can do at all to help?
As a matter of fact, if you wouldn't mind berating me for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then punch me in my kidney, I'd really appreciate it. It'd be just like old times. The Foundry fixed, Foundry Challenge 9 announced, and more in the news. Starting off tonight, the biggest bit of news recently has been that the Foundry has been experiencing a whiteness issue with objects placed on maps. Well, this issue has now been resolved. For some time, objects had no definition whatsoever, and it was extremely difficult, especially in my case, to place objects on a map. But Cryptic has fixed this issue, and now we can go about our normal business. Foundry Challenge 9 announced, The Mirrors of Romulus. Try your hand at creating a Romulan mission as seen through the filter of the Mirror Universe. Did the Terran Empire destroy them in the 22nd century? Would the Romulans be pushing for reunification with their oppressed Vulcan brethren? Let's find out, shall we? Foundry Challenge 9 extends through April 16th, so get into the thread, get a mission put together, and let's see what we can do. Spotlights on the Foundry. Since our last broadcast, Malleus Maleficarum by Dewey001 has been released. This is a Federation mission and is a level 31 plus mission. Additionally, a Klingon Defense Force mission was released by 12th Fleet's Khan. Terrors of the Past. You need to be level 41 plus to play this. Go forth and support the Foundry. Fleet Project Rerun. If you missed an opportunity for any of the Fleet Vanity projects in the past, now's your chance to get them slotted. Running from now until a date yet to be specified, you can pick up the projects that you missed. And if you have a Tier 3 mine, this will vastly cheapen these missions versus the base level. End of the 4th anniversary event. STO's 4th anniversary is now past. I hope you got your Dyson Technology ship from the event and stockpiled some goodies to use for later on. The end of this event also saw the launch of the Dyson C-Store packs. These ships, which come in 3 variants for each faction, are in the C-Store now as individual ships. 3 ship packs for each faction, and the big one, a 9-ship pack for the low price of 10,000 Zen. Also released, the Galaxy Class Reboot. This is a revamp of the classic TNG Galaxy Class starship, the Dreadnought Class Galaxy X variant, and the Venture Class model. Some changes have been made, most notably to the Galaxy X, allowing it to launch Type 8 shuttles as combat units, and also now featuring saucer separation. Additionally, the tech that allows ships to separate and continue moving has been added to these vessels, updating them to the standard of the Odyssey-class ships. These are available in the C-Store individually, or if you haven't purchased any of them before, as a 3-ship set. And finally, Massively cut its weekly STO column, written by Terry Lynn Shull. Let's give her our thanks for a job well done, and even if you didn't agree with her, at least she helped keep the game and the Foundry in the internet's eye. So thank you for your hard work, Terry. We'll be listening to you over on the G&T show, Sunday mornings. And that was the news.
And hello Stowe community, welcome to a mini tutorial for PrimetimeUGC. In this mini tutorial I'm going to teach you how to do the math. If you don't already know, many Foundry authors use calculators and paper and pencil, often to build complex and elaborate sets. And I'll show you how we do that. I use this trick quite often, I like to use it, it saves me time, and it's handy. Let's say my goal is to put in a bunch of these TOS closed gates and line them all up together to make a fence. Well, notice that when I use the drag and drop feature, the numbers are really messy. They're long, complicated numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the snap to grid and the snap to angle off. We won't really use the angles, but I turn them both off automatically. And I'm going to change the value of the first one to something simple. So exactly 300, and I'll change the Z value to 265. If you don't understand X, Y, and Z values, this tutorial is not for you. You should go back and watch one of my introductory tutorials, because this tutorial assumes that you understand how to manually edit the X, Y, and the Z values.
Oh, come on now. Will it really hurt to refresh their memory a little bit? That's better.
Okay, so now that we have the first gate in the map, we'll need to line up a second one. Of course, we know it will have the same Z value because we want it to line up, but we don't exactly know what the X value should be. This is where the most time-consuming part comes in, because you really have to guess. So I'm gonna guess that they're 2.5 apart. So the first one was at 300. I'm gonna put the second one at 302.5. Okay, let's go in to the map to see what that looks like. Okay, so here we are in the map, and because FreeCam is still broken, I'm going to have to walk up to the thing and kind of kneel around and try to get a good angle to look at it. You probably can't see it on your end, but I see a little bit of flickering. So they're a bit too close, but not much, just a bit. So I'm going to return into the Foundry, and I'm just going to increase its distance just a tiny little bit. So instead of 2.5, we're going to go 2.51. Enter. Let's go back into the map and see how that looks. Okay, here we are back in the Foundry, or in the map, and I like that. I think that looks really good. I don't see any gaps, and I don't see any texture overlap, so I think that's about as perfect as I'm going to get it. So now that I've done this step, and you might have to do this step 4, 5, or 6 times because it can be a pain to perfectly line up items, but once you go through the motions of lining two things up, then you're kind of home free from there. All it requires is a pencil, a piece of paper, and a calculator. So we know that the first gate is at 300. The second one is at 302.5. So that means there's a difference of 2.51 between those two gates. This means that the third gate will be this number plus 2.51, and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a calculator, and I'm just going to make a list. I'm going to type in 302.51 plus 2.51. Write that number down. Plus 2.51. Write that number down. Plus 2.51. Write that number down. And so it's just basic addition of adding 2.51 to a number to come up with a list of coordinates. And now that I have that list of coordinates, all I really have to do is put these things in the map, and go by the numbers. You know, all of the z coordinates on these are going to be the same. But according to my list, the next number is 305.02. Alright, this one. Come on, work with me. 307.53. Change the z. 265. The next number on my list is 310.04. Change the z. I'll just stop there. Let's go in and see what it looks like. Alright, so there we go. You could keep going. You could go all the way to the end of the map to make this gate. And it just requires using a calculator and writing some numbers down. So that's what we mean when we say do the math. Hope that helps. Alright, thanks.
Welcome to PrimetimeUGC's Foundry Author Interview. Tonight we begin a series of conversations with members of the 12th Fleet in Star Trek Online. First up is an author of 7 missions, 5 Federation, and 2 Klingon, as well as a spotlight mission called Terrors of the Past on the KDF side. We are pleased to present Khan.
Khan!
It's kind of a requirement. You have to scream Khan when you say my name, but it's a pleasure being here. Thank you guys for the invite.
I suppose we'll lead off with the most obvious question. What brought you into the Foundry?
Well, let's see. I've been doing the Foundry for probably since it came out. It's always kind of interested to me that you can make your own bit of Star Trek in the game and let people experience it with you, and you get to go on your own little missions and create them. And it's really fun just to put the maps together and put the story and see it all just kind of come together.
What do you think your strength is as far as creating missions? You more of a map person? You like writing dialogue?
I definitely like writing the dialogue. The map creation is certainly kind of one of the big visual kicks that I get out of it. It'd certainly be nice if there was a 3D version of it to where you can put stuff where it needs to go, but yeah, it's definitely fun.
One of the more requested features, the infamous nudger.
Exactly. Move it just this far.
When you approach writing a mission, who are you really writing the mission for?
A lot of times I'm modeling a lot of my missions out of my own personal characters. For instance, the spotlighted mission is all about my KDF science captain. So I kind of like to try and bring them to life and put a little bit of myself into their story. But that's usually where I'm going with a lot of my missions, is modeling them after my own characters.
Do you use them more as like a caricature framework, or is it actually more of this is how you intend the character to be at all times?
Pretty much how I intend them to be at all times. It helps, I think, to also, you come up with a biography for your own character, but you can only put it in so many words. So putting them into the Foundry kind of helps further along their story.
Would you consider yourself to be more of a gamer or a Star Trek fan?
Oh man, that's a little bit of both. I like to play games. I like a lot of MMOs, but Star Trek is kind of where the heart is. I've been watching Star Trek forever, ever since I was growing up when TNG was on the air. So I've kind of had a nice chance to kind of go back and visit the original series and some of the animated series and watch Star Trek grow, kind of from its infancy. So it's definitely, my roots are more in the Trekkie than it is really the gamer, but having both is really nice.
And where do you draw your inspirations from? Just inside of just Star Trek itself, or do you use any other sources as well, beyond your characters, obviously?
It's really just a lot of Star Trek. Like, you'll be sitting down and watching an episode, and you're like, man, that's a really good idea. I wonder what would happen if this story continued a little bit. And that's kind of where some of those go in. And I draw a little bit even from history. A couple of my Fed missions deal with NASA and the Pioneer probes, kind of like feature in the motion picture, so it kind of gets interesting that way too.
Now you have 7 missions to your credit. There are 5 Fed missions and 2 KDF. Do you find that you favor writing the Fed missions rather than the Klingon side?
Well, I definitely like writing for the Klingons. I kind of feel the Klingons themselves just don't have a lot of story missions in there, so there's a lot of open book, so to speak, when it comes to the KDF.
And as far as KDF goes, it seems to be the way almost to get a spotlight is to write a good KDF mission. Because It seems like they pick the KDF much more than they do the Fed these days.
Yeah, they're definitely fun. And it seems to me a lot of the KDF players they're more hungry for the story missions. Like, you don't really find a lot of grinder missions on that side of the spectrum.
As far as all the Foundry missions you've played, can you think of any offhand that just blew you away when you played them? Something I could really say is a favorite?
And it can be your own.
Well, I actually want to say that one of my favorite was Evangeline, and I forget who the actual author was. It was way, way, way back when. That one was a really interesting Foundry mission because it had a little bit of dialogue from the author in there, so you kind of had a bit more of the story as they were kind of going along, so it had some kind of RP features to it, and I thought that was a really interesting way to go.
Was that Cassiopeia?
Yes.
I was just looking at the banner the other day. That's why I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, it was definitely one of my favorite ones. I even modeled a couple of my missions after that same kind of writing. Trill Death to Part, I think, actually follows that same idea. Puts a little bit of RP into the story.
Has there ever been a time where you've had an idea for a mission or an idea within a mission that you found to be completely impossible with the limitations?
Oh, yeah. One of the Fed missions that I did for one of the Foundry challenges, it dealt with expanding the Davidian series. So the whole purpose of this Foundry challenge was you had to take one of the existing series missions that are in the game and kind of create a sixth mission or like a last mission to it.
Right.
And at the time, we really didn't have any TOS type assets in the Foundry. They didn't quite have any of the stuff that they had in the skirmish missions or the Davidian stuff. So it was really hard to come up with the correct prop pieces for some of the missions. So I found myself having to tweak the story so that if you had to interact with something, I was putting like invisible objects underneath the TOS map that we had, which would have been way better if there was like a console they had to click on or something to that effect.
Exactly. I know an author who will sink a blood wine cup into the baked-in prop and it make part of it shine.
Exactly. Yeah, I got a lot of tips from the Starbase UGC website and a lot of the tutorials that they had kind of in the early days, which kind of helped to make that mission possible. Yeah, it's always the hard part is you have all these great ideas for the story, and then once you finally get the story written and start the map production, you end up having to tweak some stuff because some of the things that you decided to put in the story can't exactly happen.
Now, it could be said that 12th Fleet has a lot of spotlit authors. Is it that there's just that much creative energy in the fleet, or is it just that it happens that so many authors seem to be getting picked over there?
Well, I mean, the 12th Fleet is fairly large. We've got just one almost full regular fleet, and then we have several alt fleets both on the KDF and the Fed side. So it may just be luck of the draw, but I always felt that there's a lot of creative energy throughout the 12th in all aspects. We've got divisions that do PvP and divisions that do PvE and Foundry authors, and we all really like to try and support each other in that aspect as well.
Well, you said that you were as much a fan or maybe a little more of a fan than you are a gamer. What's your favorite Star Trek series?
I have to go with Voyager. I know it's kind of a weird one, but I always thought Captain Janeway she was one of those that didn't take crap from anybody, and being shot halfway across the galaxy and having to deal with the things that the Voyager crew had to do, that would put a tax on anybody. Plus the Intrepid class ship is one of my favorites.
I believe we are ready to move into the infamous Primetime 5.
Now it's time for our wrap-up questionnaire that we're calling the Primetime 5. We'll ask 5 questions for you to answer, each with a choice. No elaboration necessary.
Your answers will tell our viewers a little bit more about you. First up, Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Constitution or Galaxy class?
Galaxy class.
Kirk or Picard?
Kirk.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Klingon or Romulan?
Klingon.
Okay, very interesting. That's going to do it for this week's author interview. Thanks so much, Khan, for joining us. Please keep making us content.
Always, anytime. Thanks again for having me, you guys.
Hello and welcome to Girl Reviews with Kendra. As a Bajoran and a female, I'm here to be a voice for 2 minority groups amongst those teeming masses. Either that or I'm here to shame, embarrass, and misrepresent them. I can't seem to remember which one. Oh well, it's basically the same thing, right? Anyway, moving on. The object of this week's ranting and raving is a mission series like no other, bursting with outrageous humor, larger-than-life villains, and fabulous sidekicks. I'd like to draw your attention to the one, the only, Miranda Mayhem series. They aren't just rock stars, they're mayhem. Trouble in the Galaxy? Well, you can bet that Miranda, Roxy, Astrid, and Spike can't be too far away. Seriously, I don't think I've ever had quite so much fun while playing a Foundry mission. Author Hippie John's goal in writing these missions was to recreate the feel of a Saturday morning cartoon adventure. Did he succeed? Well, let's just say that this Bajoran is perilously close to becoming a squealing mayhem fangirl. Oh wait, I think I already crossed that line. One of the most important things to me as a writer and a lifelong reader is the storytelling of any given mission. I want the writing to capture me, to sweep me off my feet and whisk me off into the depths of vivid imagination. This series did that for me. It's not often that I'll actually want to replay Foundry episodes immediately after I finish them, but this was one of those times. I really enjoyed how interactive these missions were too. And the puns? Guys, literally, the satire is a mile thick here. As far as character development is concerned, rave time? Ha! You thought I was already raving, didn't you? I just love each and every member of the Mayhems. Each member of this interstellar rock band has their own quirks, and every individual's dialogue has its own unique flavor. Hippie doesn't fall into the trap of having the main characters' voices blur together into one monotone, but rather keeps them sharply delineated, truly breathing life and personality into the heroes of this saga. Of course, since this is a girl review, Hippie John gets extra points for featuring not just one, but 3 strong female protagonists. In a community that leans towards using female NPCs solely as plot filler and eye candy, it's truly refreshing to experience some variety. As far as the Trek facts contained in the writing are concerned, I think that the author does a really good job of subtly representing the cultural backgrounds of different alien races without droning on or really making you realize that he's doing it. The feel is very consistent with lighter Trek episodes throughout TNG, DS9, and Voyager. Mayhem contains an outrageousness reminiscent of Captain Proton, female spunk to rival Guinans, and sweeping espionage in the spirit of Dr. Bashir's spy adventures on the holodeck. Now, to touch on a pet peeve of mine, one I will always address in my reviews. In order to preserve the internal continuity of the player's reality, it is necessary to have a plethora of responses to choose from. I feel that it is also vital that the player should never be referred to in a way that assumes their age, race, gender, or sexual orientation. Happily, Hippie got this one perfectly right. I had no problems playing this mission as a straight female or a Bajoran. And, of course, how could this be a girl review if I didn't address clothes and shoes? I have to say, I love the costumes. Miranda could totally coin the phrase putting the fashion back into Trek. On another note, I'm going to make a habit of doing something a little bit differently from any of the other reviewers you've probably listened to. As a player who sometimes plays with an audience of varying ages watching me, I like to be aware if any given episode is going to contain any sexual content or language that might not be appropriate for younger eyes and ears. Following along the idea of movie ratings, I'll give both Cute Fuzzy Things and Too Many Mayhems a squeaky clean PG rating. The sexual content in these episodes is either non-existent or very, very subtle. Finally, I'd like to mention a few technical things. I never got lost on any of the maps, and all the triggers functioned as they should. So in closing, Mayhem rocks! Go play them, rate them, love them. If we get enough screaming groupies, Hippie John won't be able to resist making us more episodes to play, right? This mission is officially female Bajoran endorsed. I am Elenis Kendra and I approve this message. Thanks for watching Girl Reviews with Kendra. See you next time.
Published in Primetime is now back, listing all the latest missions submitted to the Starbase UGC website as compiled by Rogue Enterprise. Here are the latest Federation missions. The Unexpected Return Part 3 by Logitech 007. This mission is 16+. After the loss of Starbase 375 to the Zenkethi forces, Starfleet and Klingon forces are on the run. Both the Federation and the Klingon Empire will be hard-pressed to get Starbase 375 back and to neutralize this new threat. Tempest, On the Edge, by Radioron, at level 46+. Tempest, the experimental weaponry facility, has stopped sending transmissions. It's up to you to find out what happened. This mission will take you through some enjoyable storyline and features challenging space and ground combat. Icarus Simulation, Colony Rescue, by Salem Pardis, level 41+. Recently, the Icarus Directive was put into effect, and a new fleet is forming to accomplish the mission. You have been selected for evaluation. Your combat skills in space and on the ground will be tested, along with your character. The Good, the Bad, and L by Helix Fungus, level 31+. Let me introduce L. L is a continuum character a la Q. Same continuum, different flavor. You will be his pawns whether you want to or not. You are thrown into 3 different time zones to recover him a single artifact, the Tear of Jonat, one of the Bajoran jewels fallen from the wormhole. This artifact is a religious icon revered by the Bajoran people. The Phoenix of Bavar, Parts 1 and 2 by P.F. Dennis, level 31+. You are ordered to intercept a lone Klingon shuttle with a single occupant. This warrior may hold the key to a dangerous new alliance in the Alpha Quadrant. It will be a test of courage and faith to solve this mystery. Shore Leave Under Siege by Johnny Snowball, any level. On vacation on Betazed, you are enlisted to bring a potential ally into the Klingon war effort. A new alien race, a girl with remarkable skills, a city under siege. Faced with a choice that could win or lose the war, can you do the right thing? The Devil's Playground by Confed in Blue, level 41+. You are ordered to the Noro system to investigate why contact was lost with a research team. Dreaded Undead by Border J 1998. Any level. When you're sent on a mission to find a lost ship, what you find is even more gruesome than you have ever imagined. You find a pathogen with the capability to kill and revive its victim. You have to work diligently to stop the spreading of this horrible virus to save the entirety of Starfleet. The Krios Conspiracy Part 1 by Commander Mike, level 16+. It all starts with investigating the destruction of a Klingon vessel nearby Krios. Kabor, son of Moktor, asks you for help after the High Council refused his request for support. What initially sounds like a routine job soon leads into the beginning of a conspiracy against the Klingon Empire. The Rise of the Red Eclipse by Priorin, level 35+. When an anti-Federation terrorist group violently interrupts peace talks between Starfleet and several high-profile dignitaries, it falls upon you to rescue them and stop an all-out war against the Federation. However, things are not always what they seem, and some answers lead only to further questions. And the newest Klingon mission, Honor of the Empire by Sir Boulevard, level 50+. Following the incident with the Shiasi and the Azure Nebula, the Klingon High Council convenes to discuss the ongoing threat, only to find it knocking on their door. Win or lose, the Empire will be changed forever. Those are all the latest submitted missions. Please submit missions to our thread on the STO forums for inclusion on the Starbase UGC website so that we may include them here on Primetime UGC. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Support the Foundry by creating and playing Foundry missions. Let's try to change Cryptic's mind about our poor standing on their priority list and make Foundry an indispensable part of Star Trek Online.